Classic broadcasting. Have you fallen asleep?
Oh.
Hello! One sec.
Hi, and welcome to another Myers-Briggs type interaction video. I'm Celebach once again. I'm an ISTP, and I'm here talking with an ISFP, Firedell from Personality Cafe. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let's see. So, as you might guess, um, we're both introverts. We're both perceivers. We're both sensors. And if you might have seen each of us in various other videos, and you know that both of us tend to be just a little bit awkward on camera. I watched. I watched.
Just a bit.
Yeah. So yeah, I saw. So I watched your video last week with the was it Ingus. How does he say his username?
I don't know, Ingus. He'll
Ingus.
tell me later.
Ingus. Yeah, he was another ISFP, and I thought it was really fascinating just watching the two of you just kind of pretty much spend an hour talking about pretty much nothing.
Basically.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was really interesting, and it's like totally what I would expect to see, like two sensors having just an undirected conversation. Even like even when you were going through that list of questions that people sent you, you were just kind of like, oh, well, that's kind of an odd question. And I totally would have been thinking the same thing. Like, I don't really know how to answer this.
Yeah, very true. I didn't know.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
decided, yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to ask for a list of questions. I just want to just kind of go with the flow, even if we have a whole bunch of awkward pauses, which I'm kind of expecting in this conversation. But I think that would be kind of a more accurate depiction of two ISXPs interacting.
True. Yeah.
But let's see. Well, just to get some kind of dialogue or some kind of conversation going, why don't you tell me a little bit about like how you first got into Myers-Briggs personality types, or how you discovered. I know you kind of briefly mentioned this on your last video. You have like
Yeah.
a couple of weird mistypes, I think.
Yeah. I've struggled for ages with my mistypes. Well, 2 months. That wasn't ages, but yeah.
Okay.
Did Did you struggle with them, or were you straight? Is it easy for you?
Oh well, I mistyped as ISTJ for several years, uh, and that's just from taking some online quizzes, which of course those things are never reliable.
Hmm.
But I mean, I wasn't looking for anything specific. It was just more like I ran across this online personality quiz, and I was like, okay, let's just see what this says. Got ISTJ, and then just kind of like, okay, well, that kind of describes me, I guess. And then a few years later, took another one, got INTJ, and I go, oh well, that's different. And I would just kind of flip back and forth, like my SN was always on the border, and didn't really know what that meant. Didn't really care what it meant. And yeah, and then the descriptions always just the descriptions just kind of describe me, and so
Yeah.
I never took them seriously, and but then I would run across like on these like sites like Personality Cafe or other YouTube videos where people are just like taking this stuff like actual seriously, and then people saying it's like it's like a psychology, like it's a science, and your personality is with you when you're born, and if you it's easy to mistype when you take a test, and it just kind of got me curious, like what is my actual type? And so it was just a few months ago I learned about the cognitive functions, and found experts on personality types that that really know what they're talking about, and kind of long story short, just kind of confirmed that I'm an ISTP, and it was hard for me to accept it at first because there's a lot of stereotypes about ISTPs that don't fit me. They say they're athletic, they're into extreme sports, risky behaviors, always just want to do all these kind of physical activities and get outside and experience things, and that I don't relate to that. I mean, I relate to extroverted sensing in my own ways, just not the ways that are typically described. And but yeah, the I and the T, I've always been like 100% certain on those. The reason I always tested J previously was because those were like values that my parents raised me with. Well, not just my parents, like in school and at work. J, I was always just kind of rewarded for just being organized and scheduled, and being a planner. And I kind of learned those values from others, and just kind of didn't even accept, didn't acknowledge that that P was my natural tendency until I actually studied the functions and recognized that my J values were learned and not part of my innate personality. So I got into this whole topic of persona and how you emulate other people's behavior to try to gain approval from others, and how that might mask your true personality. So I mean, was it similar for you with your mistypes?
When ENFP, that was, yeah.
Okay.
I think it was more my ideal type. I think that's why, sort of like, I thought I was that person. So yeah, I think I got mixed in with Personality Cafe, where they have the tendency to prefer N's, so I ignored the S types completely. I think that's what happened at that point.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was it the whole like Personality Cafe, how they seem to prefer N's, and they have like a prejudice against S types?
And I completely ignored the S, everything. I was like, no, I'm not. So,
Okay.
but that was before I learnt the cognitive functions, so it was more. And there's definitely like the title of the NFs, the Dreamers. I was like, that's me, but it's not.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the temperaments I think mess a lot of people. I don't know about a lot. It messed me up definitely because I didn't relate to the SP types at all. The SPs is always kind of. I mean, it goes back to the way I was raised, and SP always kind of. The description struck me as just being unreliable, irresponsible, and just being being spontaneous. That never really appealed to me, and I related a lot more. I related to NT types, the rationals, just probably because of my introverted thinking, and I guess I've always liked to think of myself as intellectual. I've always been interested in science, technology, just anything to do with intellectual stuff, and just being associated with being smart, I guess. A lot of people tend to think I'm smarter than I really am. Yeah, I think it just all depends what you're exposed to, and what you think is the most valued type. And I think it's interesting that you identified with extroverts. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah. I don't know why. I still kind of struggle between being an extrovert or not. I don't know. It's kind of but I don't relate to SE that much. That's the thing with so there is a possibility, but that was it. So.
Well, what kind of struggles? I mean, do you still see some extroverted tendencies in yourself?
Yeah. I think it's mostly, again, the descriptions where they say that introverts are really shy, but I don't feel as shy as they make them out to be. So, well, I'm quiet compared to some, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's another thing that kind of gets me sometimes. Is the common misperceptions of like what these terms really mean. Like, introvert versus extrovert. You see a person who's just who's quiet, and then you just automatically think, oh, they're an introvert. And they think extroverts are like just like really talkative and sometimes obnoxious, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But yeah, you look at if you notice like some extrovert types, they tend to be really mellow. Like every ENTP I've seen on these videos, it's like really easygoing and quiet and mellow. I think could be easily mistaken for an introvert. But yeah, as you get to know them, it's like you can see where their extrovert tendencies come into play. And it's like it has nothing to do with the way they act or their mannerisms. Yeah, and the whole idea of like thinker versus feeler. People think that feeler means like you're all emotional and like in touch with their feelings. Like I don't know. I mean, it just all goes back to like the way people define these terms.
Yeah.
People think judging means judgmental. Um,
I'd say I'm quite judgmental anyway. So.
Yeah, I've been accused of being judgmental myself. But yeah, the J. Let's see. Did you mention? Let's see. ENFP. What? There was another type that I think you mistyped as.
ESTJ was the first one I mistyped.
ESTJ. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
I don't know how.
Okay.
I don't know. I must have been, like I said, I must have been in a mood that day or something. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's really interesting, like these personality tests. I mean, we've all at some point kind of realized just how unreliable they are. But it's like, what is it? I was having a conversation with an INFJ recently just about the different things people mistype as, and what is it that causes people to prefer like certain answers over others. So like, for example, like the reason like I mistyped as ISTJ. Well, obviously I identified with with the I, the S, and the T, which are my letters. But the J versus P. Well, I would pick the J answers because those are the ones that I thought I preferred. Like, I prefer to be organized and on schedule and and reliable, on time. I mean those, and I would misunderstand the questions to think, what do you prefer? Well, that could mean, do I prefer to be a certain way, or do I have a natural tendency to be a certain way? And the only reason I prefer to be those things is because I've had.
You're expected to, in a
Yeah,
way. So.
yeah, those are like, I was expected to be that way. I was rewarded for being that way. Um, you know, uh, my parents taught me how to be organized, and so like when I followed through, I got results. I got positive results. Like, oh wow, everything's organized. I know, I got my tasks done on time. But left to my own devices, like, and once I moved on my own, like, I just like all those rules just kind of went out the window, and I just, it's kind of hard to tell what you see, behind me, but there's like, there's that cable just like dangling from the fireplace. And is you can kind of tell some of my couch cushions are missing right now. That's because I'm sitting on them right now. And but yeah, if I were to show you like my spare bedroom right now, yeah, the whole place, it looks like a tornado ran through there.
Well, I haven't even unpacked. I've been home for a week and I haven't unpacked. So
Oh, oh yeah, yeah. That's totally
yeah,
me. It's like, well, yeah, I come home from vacation, and yeah, I never unpack right away. I just any the way I unpack is like as I need stuff, I just reach into the bag and get
yeah.
it.
I still have boxes.
Yeah,
Yeah. I do.
yeah. Um, but yeah, it just that that's just the way I kind of learn these things as I go. Like when I first moved on my own, I would keep a few of the same habits that I grew up with, the ones like my parents taught me, and little by little, I would learn things. Oh, I don't have to fold my laundry right away. I can, because I discovered, well, if I just hang my shirts in the bathroom while I take a shower, the steam will get all the wrinkles out. And so like I would just kind of get lazy about, I would do my laundry and then like, leave my clothes in the dryer and get them as I need them. And if I do my laundry again and there's clothes in there, I just grab the clean clothes and throw them into this one pile. Um, let's see, and yeah, and then I would just pile stuff on top of my dining room table and not bother to put stuff away just because it works that way. I know where stuff is. So,
Messy. It's organized chaos. That's what it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's organized in my mind because like I got my dominant TI, in your case FI, um, uh, or is that how it works for you, or is it more like do you use your FI to organize in your own?
No. Not at all. No.
Well,
No.
that's one of the things I was kind of curious about because that is the difference between our two types, that dominant, introverted judging function.
I I don't know how. I think it's just TE, but that's what I mean. I'm so bad at it. So
Okay,
yeah. Hmm.
yeah, yeah, it's always hard for me to those inferior functions are kind of confusing to me sometimes. Like I don't know if I'm using it. It took me a while to figure out that I like when I use FE, when I use NI, because it kind of helped, I guess, to get in touch uh, with a psych type professional that I
Hmm.
met on YouTube, interpersonality. So that Australian-based psych type uh, YouTube channel.
Right.
Um, but yeah, she was like pointing out like all the times, like in the things that I'm saying, like I see you use NI here and you use FE here, talking about and pointing out like other personality types, like like how you can observe the extroverted functions in their conversation. Where the heck was I going with this? Um,
Um. Um. Inferior functions.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and at points, all of us do use the all 8 functions at some point. It just, we prefer the top 4 functions. So, because of my SJ persona, there are times when I'm actually using SI. It just I'm not using it very well.
Yeah.
um, it's like the 6th function in my function order. So it's like I might, like SI might be recalling certain sensations, and usually it'll come in the form of, oh, you better be careful. This is not a good situation, or I got a bad feeling about this.
Hmm.
Whereas if I were to instead use my NI, uh, I might like an idea in my head, like, oh, this could be a good situation, and I might evaluate what I already know, and decide, oh, let's see where this goes, and then use my dominant TI to like really analyze the situation and figure out what is the truth about this situation, and what should I do about it. So, and then yeah, it's really interesting to see how all the cognitive functions like work together, because like the truth is you're very rarely using like just one function by itself. I think that's something people get confused about. So it's hard to pinpoint like this is SE, this is TI. But yeah, the functions are certainly I think they all work together in some way to form your personality type.
Yeah. One thing I always struggle with is to recognize NI in myself. That's always one, I think. Especially with the value FI and NI can sometimes lapse over. It's kind of strange thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've come to recognize, my TI, a lot of the INFJs, like Numiceptor and Lady Lullaby and Rena, they're talking about like when they use TI and NI, and I think Numiceptor was saying like she always gets confused as to like when she's using TI and when she's using NI, but I think they actually work together if those are your functions. That NI actually supports your TI, and or the TI supports your NI if you're an INFJ, or in your case your NI supports your FI. And I think that's also kind of another reason why you might score, with an N result on those personality tests. Like you got an N, and you got your ENFP.
Yeah.
I've scored as INTJ, and I've related to N descriptions. I think that's just NI. NI working with the SE, and the personality tests really not distinguishing NI from NE or SI from SE, but yeah, it's
especially what's it? Are you creative? That question. And you're like, well, obviously that one. So they try to distinguish. Can't say that word. N and S with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like each question will be like N versus is this an N versus an N question, and whichever side you lean toward, that'll tally up toward your N result or your S result, and and in some cases I'll relate to SE, some cases I'll relate to NI, and that adds up to a border between S and N.
Yeah. Especially the SE descriptions, and like you were saying before, when they seem very adventurous, and that bit just don't relate to at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do know. Go on. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to ask you. Do you see other ways that you use SE?
I say it's more observational more than. That's what I think. They're probably kind of a weird. I don't know. It's a weird thing. SE.
So like when you so this is kind of a typical description that I've heard.
Okay.
Like when a sensor, like a person using extroverted sensing, when they walk into a new place, they notice a lot of details around them, and I can kind of relate to it sometimes. Do you relate to that?
I think I don't really purposely take it in, but I take it in. I don't look around for the sake of it. So I think. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like the perception functions, sensing and intuiting, they're not things you do on purpose. Kind of thing. It's just something that comes naturally, and you might not even notice it. I think that kind of messed me up because like when I was actually studying these functions, like there's this one kind of an SE little test. Like they show you a picture, and it says like if you're good at using SE, then you'll notice a lot of details. And well, that kind of messed me up because I was actually trying to look for details, but I didn't know like what details I was supposed to look for, and and as a result, I was thinking, well, what am I looking for? And I thought, well, I'm not really seeing anything interesting in this picture. And it was just a picture of like these four these six elderly people sitting around a table outside. They had there was food on the table. And those were the only details I noticed. And it's like, well, didn't remember like how many of them had beards, how many of them were wearing glasses, and what specific food was on the table. But like if I just seen the picture and nobody told me what I was supposed to be looking for, I probably would have noticed more details.
No. Yeah.
But I think for me it also depends on like what sort of details interest me. Like if it had been a picture of say like a desk with a computer and let's say like a guitar in the background, and like a TV or other pieces of electronic equipment or things that I personally can relate to, I probably would have noticed plenty of those details, like what kind of computer it is, like how approximately how old the monitor is, and like what kind of speakers are on the table, and maybe like what kind of books are on the table. If they're like techie books, or if they're like sci-fi books, I might notice those things. But otherwise, if it's a picture of like just furniture or drapes, I probably could care less about those types of things. I just
Yeah, I know what you mean. Oh, okay. Pause.
we lasted a lot longer than I thought we would.
I've not been talking. I've lost all my talking today.
Let's see. So what are we, like 25 minutes into the conversation? That's
all right.
That's a lot longer. Yeah, I totally expected us to go like 10 minutes before our first awkward pause.